Just dented my door. That's great. Buy an Audi Quattro, it'll be fun, they said. Actually, nobody said that. Everybody thought I was crazy for spending $20,000 on this car that barely ran. Turns out it is a lot of fun. My 240SX project has pretty much gotten wrapped up the last few weeks, which is very exciting, but it means that it's time to move on to another one of my projects. And I was gonna do some stuff to my E30, get it kind of ready for spring, but the weather has been pretty crummy out here in Oregon, so the car has not been fun to drive at all. What I really think needs to take priority right now is getting my Audi Quattro squared away. The original plan was to pull the motor on the Quattro and do a whole bunch of gaskets and things and all that, get the clutch swapped out, and that's definitely gonna happen this year. But I've signed up for the Overcrest rally, which is happening in a few weeks, so I definitely don't have time to get all that done. So for now, I'm gonna go grab the car, get it swapped out, and do a couple of little easy things to hopefully make the car a little bit more reliable for this 400-mile drive that we're gonna take. It's always a little bit frightening keeping the car packed away in storage for a month or two. The Quattro's been sitting in that storage unit for probably a month and a half, so it's not too long, but still you wonder, you know, is it gonna be in the same state that I left it in? Is it gonna start? Are the tires gonna be inflated? I have a bunch of tools and stuff in the trunk just in case, but you're always a little bit curious how you're gonna find the car. So the car's got a lot of little things that need fixing. The door handle's not working on the passenger side. The blower motor won't turn on for the heat for some reason. Just lots of little stuff that needs to be taken care of. I would love to make some kind of tensioner stay for the alternator pulley because I threw the alternator belt on the last video when I drove this car 750 miles to Cape Flattery and back to do a roadside repair. So, you know, it was a little bit of fun, but not something that I want to deal with all the time, especially if I'm going to be on a road rally with some of my friends. I want to be able to keep up. I don't want to be sitting on the side of the road fixing something by myself. So we'll see. We'll get the car back to the house. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the fuel pump. I got a brand new fuel pump from FCP Euro, and those guys are always happy to help out with the car. It's in a pretty easy place to access. It's just right under the car there, so you can kind of just throw it up on the four-post and pull it out pretty quickly. I don't really have a reason to believe this fuel pump is just gonna die on me other than the fact that this is a 42-year-old car and I don't really know a lot of the service history. The previous owner told me he had barely put 500 miles on the car in like the 3 or 4 years he had owned it, and that's really not good for the electronics. Like anything that moves, you know, needs to continue moving, otherwise it'll stop permanently. But I had a spare with me on all my drives just in case, because I think it would be a pretty easy thing to do on the side of the road. Obviously it wouldn't be that much fun, but it was definitely something I probably could have handled. All right, I've got the new fuel pump here. I also ordered a fuel filter, but these are pretty common. I think they said that it fits on like almost any Volkswagen, almost any Audi from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So hopefully it's the right one. These are really easy to install. You just take off the positive and negative terminal and swap it. They even included like brand new terminals because on this car, the OEM ones are pretty scary. They're like these weird like press-on clip things that always end up breaking. And someone even warned me about it when I bought the car. It became a problem. So I already cut the old ones off and put brand new ones on to get rid of that problem. So won't be needing this, but yeah, not exactly looking forward to taking the old one out and getting gasoline all over the place. I'm really gonna try to take care with that, unplug the battery and try to reduce any chance of there being any sparks is definitely something that frightens me. So hopefully I can do it without making a big mess. Looks like it's the exact same part, so let's do it. Here goes nothing. I probably should spray these threads with some kind of penetrating oil, but let's just see what happens. Yeah, that's not happy. It wants to strip it. Squirt this thing with some Royal Purple Max film here. I did have to say this was gonna be easy, didn't I? This fuel line nut, whatever this thing is not happy and is quickly turning into a vice grip situation, which has happened many times on this car. Oh my God, I think it's turning. Oh, thank goodness. Seems like that worked pretty good. Hopefully that means most of the gas is out of that side of the lines and we won't have as much come out when we pull the fuel pump. Of course, there's the gas tank side, but we'll see. So one side of this fuel pump, luckily, is just a hose clamp. That'll be easy. And then the other side is some weird kind of thing, but it looks like it's a pretty big nut. So hopefully it doesn't strip like the other one did. I'm not really sure what these guys were thinking when they designed some of this stuff. It's pretty wild. They've got this weird like plastic line going into the fuel pump, and then it makes kind of a weird hook and into this oddly shaped thing that's like 3 or 4 different pieces for no reason. So I'm just gonna start pulling that apart. I need to get something under here because it's definitely leaking gas. So far, so good. Okay. That's not good. A lot of gas coming out there. So I'm gonna guess that the gas tank is just fully emptying itself out when I do that. Maybe I can like pinch it off somehow and then swap the pumps real quick, because that came out quick. That filled the whole thing up in like 5 seconds. So everything is going pretty good, I guess. I got them sort of swapped over and nothing's leaking at the very moment. Unfortunately, this plastic fuel line that's on here that I'm assuming is OEM is kind of crimped pretty badly, and I kind of want to replace it, but I'm not sure if I can. All right, everything is back in there. I think it's time to test it out and see if we got any leaks. Okay, definitely leaking. Wow. Just dented my door. That's great. Hate this thing. So you can still see where it's leaking. It's just squirting out of where that banjo fitting is. I'm not really sure why they didn't give me new banjo washers, but I remembered that I've got some, so we'll see if they fit. It's all just metric sizes, so they probably will. Just wish I would have remembered that before I put this back together and put a bunch of pressure through the system and dented my door. Okay, it's leaking a lot less now. I just tightened it a little bit. It's a hell of a lot quieter though, that's for sure. This little plastic line I was talking about finally sprung a leak, and it's probably good that it happened now. I wanted to just send it as is because I wasn't sure if I could fix it. It had this very interesting like kink in it from being like bent. I'm not sure why they used this weird plastic stuff, but I managed to get it off and it's not very long. I'm gonna try to just replace it with some regular rubber fuel line, and the only issue is now this little banjo fitting is pretty nasty and I'm wondering if I can even get it to seal, but what I think I might do is just sand this down, you know, with some 1000 grit sandpaper and get it nice and flat so that it can make a good seal, because it is really corroded. I definitely underestimated how good of a seal I needed with the 40 PSI of fuel pressure is what I'm assuming that it makes. I've got the copper washers for each side. Here is basically what that fitting looks like. This is the old one, and the copper needs to go on each side and the banjo fitting in the middle. That little cap screw goes on the end. And that's it. Hopefully this time around it will make a good seal, and also I won't have to worry about that crappy plastic fuel line rupturing either. I dug around up in my bins looking for some fuel line, and I found this 1/4 inch line and wasn't exactly sure what it was. You know, it doesn't really look like vacuum line because it's kind of big and thick, but I don't think it's fuel line. So rather than putting this on the car and sending it, I figured I should go out and get some real fuel line, and you know, a quick trip to the auto parts store is gonna save me a lot of time on the back end because I don't wanna do this again. So I got some real, for sure, 300 PSI fuel hose, you know, 1/4 inch inner diameter. So I know for sure this will be the right stuff. I'm gonna put this on the car, and I really hope that everything is squared away now because I'm pretty tired of dealing with all this gasoline, and I would love to have the Quattro running again. So let's see how this works. All right, here goes nothing. Drew, drive the car around a little bit. See if she starts. Nothing. We're just gonna keep trying. This car gets flooded pretty easily, as you can hear. I should put a cutoff on the fuel pump so I can like lean it out when it gets flooded like that, because it just keeps pumping more gas into the cylinder. What I end up doing is holding the throttle to wide open so that it can get some of the fuel fumes out of the cylinder, is what my buddy told me to do, and that actually seems to work. I don't see any leaks. That makes me happy. Hopefully she holds for another 100,000 miles or so. Always good to give the car a good bashing before a road trip. Try to break anything when you're close to home. Seems like she's holding together pretty good. The fuel pump definitely seems like it's holding in there, so that's great news. No leaks or anything like that. This weekend, I took the car to a Cars and Coffee about 25 miles away, so put a good amount of miles on it, probably put about 70 miles on that day. I went up there with my buddy Spencer and his M3, and he's also going to be joining with me in this overcrest rally drive, so that'll be a lot of fun getting to do that with him. I also got to take my son to the Cars and Coffee. It's not only one of his first times riding in the Quattro, but one of his first times going to a car type event and getting to see that, and he seemed like he had a really good time. I have a bad feeling that he's going to be really into cars. What was your favorite car? What color is your favorite car?
Green.
Green? I thought you liked red cars. And we finished off the day by filling the Quattro up with some non-ethanol fuel. It was about $120 worth of gas, but I think it'll definitely make a difference and hopefully clean that thing out. I've heard that that CIS injection type stuff does not like the ethanol fuel that they sell nowadays, so I've got a gas station that sells it pretty close to my house, which is nice. I don't want to tear the car apart too far because the rally is in 25 days, so it's definitely enough time to get a lot of things done, but I don't want to get too far into a project and not be able to complete it in time. So for now, I'm going to be doing a bunch of little things. There's a huge laundry list of little things that's wrong with this car that I need to fix. So first order of business is going to be getting this passenger side door handle fixed. I replaced both door handles on the car last summer. They're actually pretty cheap and easy to get because they're the exact same door handles that you'd find on a Mark II Volkswagen Golf or Jetta. So they're pretty cheap and affordable, but what happens is over time, the little latch thing that pushes on the door lock release gets worn out, and eventually pulling on this thing doesn't have enough leverage to actually disengage the door handle. But what happened on my last drive was something went on inside of here where it's not touching at all. I'm assuming all the driving on the gravel when I took it to Salt Lake City and drove on all those gravel roads probably just loosened something up. So let's tear into this thing and see, if we can figure out what's wrong with it. Thank goodness it still works from the inside, so that's a good thing. We know it's not the actual lock mechanism. I'm pretty sure it was just one of the little rods that goes in there. I'm not sure if it's really very obvious on the camera, but it's pretty crazy how much the color of these door cards have already changed just over the course of one summer worth of UV. And they're probably a little bit dirty, but they definitely used to be a little more orangish, and now they seem like a medium brown. I actually like the color now better than what the old stuff looks like. So I was right, nothing's actually broken here. It's just a little pin fell out that the door handle pushes against. I need to figure out why it fell out and how to keep that from happening again. I figured it'd be best to pull the door handle out so I can get a good look at it, and I can definitely see what's going on here. It's exactly the same thing as the 240 has. There's supposed to be a little plastic clip inside of here that allows that rod to go through, but then clips it and locks it into place. And of course, that thing is long gone. So what I'm gonna do is take a rubber grommet and force the biggest one I can fit in there, which is probably the smallest one I have. And that'll hopefully make that hole for the pin really tight so I can pretty much force it in there, and hopefully that'll keep it from ever falling out again. I was gonna try to get that little pin out and kind of use it as a demonstration and actually show what's going on in there, but it's attached pretty well to the actual latch, and I don't wanna mess with it more and take more things apart than I need to. So I found a little drill bit that's basically the exact same size. It's just gonna slide in there nice and tight, hopefully, and I don't even have this thing all the way in there. There we go. That's pretty dang tight. I don't think that just regular rattling around would cause that to fall out. So this could be a good solution here that will hopefully last 20 years. Seems like it's working pretty good now. It definitely took me a little while to get it all back together. You can't really see very well inside the door panel there. It's hard to get your arms in there, especially with that lock cylinder in the way. So I actually used a piece of duct tape to turn the key and keep it stuck there so that the cylinder was pointed up rather than down. But I'm really hoping this stays functioning for a long time because it's not fun having a door handle that doesn't work, having to run around to the other side and open it every single time I needed to get something out of the passenger seat. So looking forward to that being fixed. And I'm gonna move on to something even easier now. I want to realign the wiper blades because last time I put them on, they're just a little bit too high, and it kind of drives me crazy, especially when I'm trying to film something through the front window and the wiper blades are just like stuck like that. Kind of just a little bit nitpicky on that, but something that's so easy to fix, so I'm just gonna knock it out in 5 minutes. Sometimes it can take some trial and error to get it just right. Like I said, I don't like how high the wipers are up on the window, and I just clocked the driver's side one to be one click lower. The problem that I'm seeing now is this driver's side one is almost so low that it's gonna start hitting the rubber seal right here. It'll really just be a matter of time of using them and seeing where they end up landing naturally on their own, because based on how strong the motor is, the motor on this thing isn't very strong anymore, and it has a hard time getting them all the way to the bottom to the home point. But pop this little cap off and you got your 10mm socket here. You just loosen this thing up, and sometimes you don't even need to get the nut all the way off, but you get it just so that it can pop. There you go. And then it's knurled, so you only have so many options of where you can put it. This passenger one was way too high, as you could kind of see. See, I actually like where that landed on here just perfectly. So we'll send it, and you know, after driving in the rain a few times and seeing where the wipers land naturally, maybe I'll leave it, maybe I'll put it back. I've dealt with a lot of annoying things on cars, especially this car, but this has to be by far the most annoying thing I've ever had, and it's these flappy mirrors. What happens is over time, the springs inside here that keep these nice and tight start to loosen up, and then when you're driving on the freeway or pretty much anything over 30, these things start to flap back and forth from the wind, and they're pretty much unusable. So I tried to take one of them apart and pop the glass off. I ended up cracking the glass, which is kind of a bummer, but a friend of mine told me, stop, you're not gonna fix it. What you need to do, put it all back together and use some giant O-rings to basically get them stuck inside the channel here so that the mirrors are nice and tight again, and that will keep them from flapping. Not really the kind of fix I like to do. It sounds like more of a Band-Aid, but I mean, if it's that easy, might as well try it for now, and maybe one day I'll see if I can get these things completely disassembled and fixed properly with brand new springs. I was driving to go grab those O-rings, and I remembered that this car has a lot of idle problems and also throttle hang. And what throttle hang is when you go to shift gears, you clutch in and let off the gas normally, but the RPMs either stay the same, and sometimes they even get higher, which is the opposite of what it should be doing. And after a long time of changing a lot of different parts, I decided I would try the intake idle control module, and this is actually the same part that a Ferrari Testarossa uses, but it's not that special because I think about 10 or 20,000 other cars use this piece. Luckily, that means it's really cheap and really easy to get, so I bought one. It came in the mail, and let's plug this thing in and see if it does anything. I'll probably keep this OEM one around just in case. Sometimes these OEM parts are better to clean them up and see if you can get them functioning again, because a lot of times the Chinese ones that are available don't last too long. All right, so I bought all of the large O-rings they had. Feel like kind of a dick, but I mean, who buys O-rings? If this intake idle control valve actually works properly, it could technically fix 3 different problems: the idle hang, the idle, and then also starting the car. So let's just see what it does. Oh, 2 attempts. That's good. What I'm really looking for out of it is consistency, because the car is all over the place. Sometimes it starts easy, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it throttle hangs, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the idle just sticks at 3,000 RPMs. You guessed it, sometimes it doesn't. So over the next few weeks, we'll see, you know, what happens. But in my opinion, I think the car already runs a little bit better. So we'll just keep sending it and we'll see. That O-ring trick is definitely working. You know, it's keeping the mirrors from flapping, but I want to take it apart and fix it the right way. I don't like how you can see the O-ring still, and you know, the mirror looks detached from its base still. And plus, I want to take these apart and paint them so they're nice and black. They're very faded, but hopefully the car is getting closer and closer to what it needs to be a much more comfortable driver. And still, I need to put 9,000 more miles on the car this year. I told you guys at the beginning of this year that I was going to do 10,000, so I got a lot to go. It just clicked over 1,000 today, so it's pretty exciting, but it's already April and I'm not even a quarter of the way there yet. I need to keep working on that. Going on some of these rallies is definitely going to help. I definitely want to drive this thing to Canada. I want to drive it to Los Angeles. I want to drive it all over the place, as many different places as I can think of. So thanks for watching, following along, and you'll definitely see more of this car in the future now that I'm kind of changing gears to this project from the 240. Still waiting on some parts on the 240, but there will be another episode on that car soon. So thanks for watching. Check your polarizer.